Welcome to the Daily Dev Talk with me, Adrian Nantchev, where we explore and share stories of the best game you can. Stay tuned for today's episode. Good morning, Overload Nation. Adrian here, and I'm with Jan Taaks. But Jan, tell us a little about yourself first.
Hey there. First of all, thanks for having me. And I started out not in the game industry at all. I studied economics, and I've been working only a hobby of mine. And roughly 3 years ago, I started with my brother and some other friends to a game on Steam in the early access, and it's quite successful so far. And now I managed to go full time on the project.
And the only game is Battle Brothers.
Yes, that is our first project, and it will keep us occupied for quite a while. It takes a while. And now we are full time on the project. I think we're gonna be a lot quicker, and we hope to take it from there.
Yeah, because it's still in early access.
Yes.
And going back a tiny bit, you say your background is
in St Andrews in Scotland for 2 years, and by the end of I changed into online marketing.
So how useful is economics in the game?
The thing you can numbers and statistics, because when doing game design, statistics is a really crucial part, especially regarding that, to be able to account for different outcomes, and you have to have a good feeling for basically calculate in your head the outcome of what's happening in the game without you having all the time to play it and try it is pretty essential as well.
Oh wow, so that's almost like a built-in debugging, if you know the probabilities, to have a general idea.
We do a lot. We have been working on this for 3 years besides our normal jobs, so it was basically a hobby project, and so we had to anticipate a lot of it, and we didn't have that much time for balancing, so we had to do it basically in our heads. That saved us a lot of time.
Well, yeah, that I can understand. I've played the game, and there's a lot of numbers in it, a lot of tables.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Battle Brothers.
Yeah, sure. I just give you a really short introduction in the original XCOM from the 90s and put it in a fantasy setting. And we were wondering why nobody has ever done that. And I think it was out. And along the way, it somehow turned into a mercenary simulation. So you are the mercenary captain you just jump into this world and you hire your mercenaries. You have to take care of them, equip them, and then hide out, and thus you get paid, and so you can invest in better equipment, and so they have the basic game cycle and it's all turn-based, and so that's the very, very basic idea of the game.
Yes, or Decemberish time, just gone. And that was when you were in the middle, I think, Kickstarter, or just near the end of it?
No, we didn't do Kickstarter, we did
quite a while ago.
Yeah, that was
and this was
ages ago.
Yeah, and this was when the game wasn't that well known, and yet playing it, and I practically loved it from day one. I remember playing some mercenaries fighting some zombies in a grid, and I can remember, and I remember contacting one of you guys on YouTube or one of the videos and saying that, can you play as the zombie? I said, maybe on a future build or something.
Yeah.
And when I started this Daily Dev Talk, this was the first studio and first game that came to mind, and it said error, couldn't send it to. So I was like, I'm not giving up that easily. So I kept trying the next day, and it went through. And then I came in touch with you to play it, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then you gave me the key, and then you said, it's all right to play on easy mode. No great shame. And I thought, and I'm playing it, and as soon as I go outside the main city, I'm seeing things like a caravan, impossible. Bandits, challenging. 1 meter, 1 square, you're dead. Orcs, impossible. These patrols, impossible. It's whoa. But so step up your game. I found that as soon as you get into it, it's not just one of those things where you can step up there, battle a few wolves, level 2.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. You get a decent sized group of mercenaries, around 6, and then you buy all the shields you can get. You always have to do that, and then you're in a much better state to take it from there. But the to us, we also have like the permadeath, so that all your characters that die or stay dead. And wanted to write a story. Basically, the game is not designed to be about winning or being most efficient or being the story. And I think sometimes losing someone or even like or failing something makes for a way thing, and being the big hero with a massive sword and just killing everything. And so we want to keep it challenging, and also all the mercenaries are completely different every time you start. So starting a new game should feel like an opportunity to. Also, it's not really you have to grind through all the same stuff again, but you can just get in and have a new story. And also, of course, a big thing we have to keep in mind. I mean, with an open world system, we have balancing is really, really tricky. The more linear, the harder it is to balance, because the player can just run into like some crazy enemy fortress and get killed.
Yes. Well, quite a few things. If a character dies, the permadeath is a great incentive. Remember, one of the original three characters, if they die too soon in the game, that's very bad, because they have an extra bonus, like 5+ attack mercenary that costs, say, 90 to hire. And he dies like after 2 battles or 3 or 4. It ain't that bad, as long as they didn't have any expensive gear on them. They get a bigger team as well, so it's generally strong and a nice balance of weapons as well. So, like, as far as numbers are concerned, I'm very that when someone dies, just try to start again. Make sure that no one dies, and keeping it to a very minimum. And the second or third second or third campaign, the maps are generally different, and the names are a lot different. Although I did notice there was a lot of German themes nice. And I noticed that also that some of the other soldiers, I can't pronounce the name, but like Landsknecht. I can also see why the procedural world will be useful, otherwise it's quite repetitive. And I can also see why you'd want to track, because things like night and day, where you move slower, and provisions, it's a real challenge in itself to make sure that you're alive in general in battle, having enough provisions to feed and not starve, and tools to repair armor, to crunch, to get this whole thing working efficiently and smoothly.
Yeah, it's pretty complex. I have to admit right now, the beginning mercenaries, the mercenary band spirals a bit out of control, and the game gets stronger faster than we want them to. So, but this is just early access, and we have to do a lot of late game balancing, and we will add a lot of.
Wait, you mean that the characters that you have after level 7 go exponentially stronger?
Yeah,
it's disproportionate.
It's because you can choose from, and on each level up, and there are some really strong synergies. So we have some people who they have found some combinations that are really powerful, and so. But this is balancing. We will be balanced.
Yes, vital part of the game development process. I also found that there's at the start or such, there's not that many other, and I won't see many people. I'll see a few caravans, 1 or 2 patrols, and maybe like 1 ambusher or scout.
So they populate the world map a bit more. We want what we have. Today we're gonna throw out a new update, like semi-random events that could happen. Like maybe some of your provisions go bad, or if you have a guy in your party who can have, or clumsy, they can have like a training accident and hurt themselves, and you can meet like a traveling monk on the road and increase the morale of your troop and so on. So it's like a really big update we have coming today, to get some down the road. We want to add neutral locations like a small farmhouse or windmill or whatever on the world tracks or so on. So just to liven up the world map a lot.
I can understand the benefit of having a character dies.
I know.
That'll really
they won't die from that. That's too harsh.
Okay. Oh, really? Not too harsh.
Just killing somebody off is a really big deal in the game. So doing this by a random event would be like we are really careful about that.
So you draw the line at spontaneous death.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. That's nice. And what do you mean by neutral zones exactly? I don't understand that, because
that will be.
And
So it's right now we only have enemy the settlements, the human settlements. They are friendly to you, like the town and the watchtower, or a hideout of brigands or whatever. And then we will want to have locations that are maybe aligned to the humans. A miller and a windmill, out on the fields, or maybe a hunter living in a small cabin in the
really mix up the game and kind of like break that danger. In the wilderness.
And have the world feel more alive.
Between all the cities and settlements, and that's like generally safe.
Yeah.
Go outside of that, and the further out you get, it's like the more dangerous. So peace.
Yeah.
That'd be very very good to break it up. And there was one other thing I was a little curious about.
I get asked that a lot. And the thing is, like right now, we have a simulated economy going on, so keep themselves supplied. And also, if all the caravans get raided, the villages will starve, and you won't burden yourself when you would attack the caravans. And this is where our event system comes in, because through the event, evil kind of mercenary, and so right now you have to be the good guy, and so through the event system we have events where you could decide to do really evil caravans, but we have similar events in the game.
Yeah, I can see you got a big scope for this killing orcs and bandits and the undead. So tell me, Jan, I'm very curious. Minutes of gameplay.
That's something that we didn't really have in mind. Like, I think it would be the procedural thing that somebody who starts up a new game should have even within the first minutes. So sometimes you have games that are procedural or sandboxy or whatever, but they started to have, like, right from the start, feel a game to make the game feel different from the previous time, and that's pretty tricky. But I think we are on a good way there. So we want the people to have this, from Civilization, the feeling, or do I just start a new one? And we want it to be fun to start a new game. And I think we are on a good way.
Pain of defeat and death would play quite prominent in 18 minutes.
Yes.
And what?
At first, I thought somebody would steal our idea, and I think that's something that everybody who may steal the idea, and that's just not going to happen. And the one thing I really learned is that an idea as such is the implementation of the idea, and that's where the work is. I mean, I have like 3 ideas when I take a shower in the morning. Implement it and having something done, that is worth a lot. And I think many people who have great ideas somehow think that somebody would steal. You can be sure that he will have enough ideas by himself. He won't be stealing your idea. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear that a lot when it comes to the industry. Don't be afraid to share.
Yeah.
But I find that having an idea is half the battle, but still nothing to work on and nothing to develop on. And the implementation is the other half. The idea is great in itself. It's as viable or not as valuable as other ideas you may have, but still you're exercising that brain and thinking it through, and planning of the ideas definitely is very important. So, what was the biggest light bulb moment on the game when you started?
I think that was it's quite difficult to pinpoint that, but as I mentioned before, so in XCOM you would have base management and all that kind of stuff. And at some point we realized that is not really anymore where do we want to take this original idea, and we basically have to change our vision of what we are working on, and then we realized. And that was the point where we really shifted the whole focus of the game. And that was about like halfway through. It really changed how the game turned out to be drastically.
So what was the work somehow? Or your debugging system didn't quite work as well? Or maybe it was just totally unbalanced in the first place?
A concrete thing, but for me the hardest part was to keep going. I mean, for like and keep going on, even if you run out of money or you run out of motivation, or some always will have times where you think, is this really like worth it doing all this stuff? Why am I doing this? And I think keeping yourself motivated and when doing a project like this, and I think that's way more important, like compared to some. But if you are yourself, you're losing your motivation, then the project's basically dead.
Yeah, persistence. Persistent. I remember hearing some quotes somewhere that the main difference between success and failure is the persistent.
Yeah.
How persistent you are in order to not giving up.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with motivation. So on the flip side to all that, what was the look?
First of all, when we got the demo out, and that was the first time we actually presented any of the thing that we have to a larger audience, and getting the feedback from the people and seeing that the people really liked it, and they encouraged us to initial moment where we got the first positive feedback for the combat demo. I think that was the point where it really flipped to let's really do this, and that was a really great moment.
That's good to know. Yeah, because
it's not really a garage.
All right, workshop, or what was it? Werkstatt.
Werkstatt.
That's just beautiful, because you're all working on it together in a place that you have a little common space, there's enough room to put.
And now we have luckily we have like a real office, and up until now many of us were like working a lot from home.
So it was all coordinated digitally.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Advice, if any, you may have received. Coming from an economics and marketing background.
Okay, that may sound like it's not game development. It's really sad to say that, but invest in legal advice early, and make not somebody who just once read a book on it, but make a proper contract. It will cost a lot, but it's definitely worth it. You will regret it if you're really crucial.
I agree, because you can get tripped over very easily when it comes to the legal side. If it's not right, you're big.
Come back.
Regardless how big the game is, or Steam, or whatever, all these other things, all these other factors, that's it, goodbye for the delays and complications, so to speak. So yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with that a lot. So get legals in order.
You just miss it when it's too late. Then you will really miss it. I mean, if you don't need it, then you won't miss it. But you have to prepare for it.
And is there a game development related book, lecture, or learning resource that you can recommend?
A lot about game design, but if I had to recommend something, it's the blog from Julian Gollop. He's the creator of, from last year. It's not very recent, but there are a lot of articles that are pretty timeless on that. And he has some really resource. You can read all. Some 5-year-old entries. They are still relevant to game design. It's great.
Julian Gollop, he's XCOM, and he's also working on a new game that was
Chaos Reborn
proved recently. Do you remember any of the specific articles on there, or what exactly he covers?
There was one article on, that's really difficult to pronounce, about game design systems not just adding to each other, but multiplying each other. Basic principle that we used when designing Battle Brothers. So, because if you take a look at a linear game, play through that in just seconds. Take a World of Warcraft add-on, and the first guy will have it finished in an hour or so. But if you have have procedural elements in them, it really, really adds to the playtime of the game and the replayability, and to not make it too linear. And you should read that article. It's really great.
Multiplayer, anything that increases replayability keeps the game alive for a longer period of time. That's always worth knowing.
More advice for if you want to get into game design.
Please do.
That's what I've been doing is I've go to one genre like shooters or strategy games, but have a look at all the kinds of games, and look critically at I improve this game, and maybe you don't have to buy all the games, just watch some let's plays, and always think about different mechanics and different implementations of ideas, and just don't play the game, but at the same time you have to learn a lot from that.
Yeah, I agree, because if you look at other games out there that are in a similar genre, the game that's FPS, but you realise that there's another game out there, whether it's popular or whether it's not heard of or such, that's got a very similar game mechanic, good thing, because it's a proof of concept, it's a proof that it can work in a game context, it's a proof that people, as a consumer and business perspective, people have something to build from, see it as something that you can take certain aspects, mechanics or things such like that, carbon copy, but doing it my way, doing it your way.
Yeah.
And what quality piece of equipment or hardware, or it could be as simple as a comfortable chair and good desk or a good studio.
I think getting YouTube videos of your product, and that's really crucial. If you have a marketing video, really bad audio, people will instantly think the whole thing is low quality. So
Oh, definitely. It takes that professional level and that approachability from garbled and blurry to clear. And like an Evernote or Trello, do you have a useful or productivity enhancing software?
You mentioned Trello because this is our main resource we use for our development, and it's really, but you don't really need it. It's very easy to use, very intuitive and very graphical. Highly recommend is Google Docs. And because you have collaborative documents like Excel spreadsheets where you come from different locations, and you can, sometimes we'll be in one document with like 3 guys and writing in there the Google Drive in general is pretty good, but don't put
Something happens, problems, and I'm curious if you were in an identical wooden shelter taken care of, how different would the game be and why? And also to mix it up, let's say that
I think the game will be the game itself would be pretty similar, but we would be like one and a half we would be way more ahead if we didn't have to work like less stress over the last 3 years. And I think in general, if you have your whole mind, you can also explore a lot more different ideas when you have some more time. And the one thing that is the graphical resources, you can see where like we only have like 2D art, and if we had more figurines, not just the upper body, that would be probably a really big optical change. And basically, it's a matter of time for us. So we just took us a lot longer to get where we are right now.
I see. I talk a little bit about the game.
Sure.
The update is coming out today.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit why as well.
At the same time, I talked a little about the event system. And that's just the basis of what mood statistic for each individual soldier. So each soldier now can be happy or sad or disgruntled, individual mood of each soldier, and through events this can be influenced, of course, if you spend if you run out of something, or if somebody steals something and you have him caned, that's like a completely new mechanic. We just implemented it, and this is just the basis. There will be a lot more events. Also adding is a couple of new weapons. I think we have lots of weapons in the game already, but a little more. They get more variety into the game, and then we're also doing a little balancing up. We're doing all the time, and behind the curtains we are working on a completely new enemy faction, and that's the goblins. And yeah, they're pretty. We have a lot coming.
Oh, that's awesome. Keeping the game alive and always adding more morale, like how confident they are, but also adding that emotional in there as well to keep it extra complicated. That mood.
Like you have a bunch of desperate, crazy mercenaries who are risking their lives. Those are not the easiest characters, and keeping 12 of them in a small group is a challenge of itself. I mean, but I think it's very important that those are not like really disciplined soldiers. Those are a bunch of a lot of history of themselves, and maybe some of them are some steal, some drink, some are violent, and so on. And it can be quite tricky.
About the game, about three aspects of the game. In the top right corner, where we got like the number of soldiers, more buttons are going to be added up there.
Yes. Yes.
And
sorry. Yeah.
And speaking of buttons, the world is a little slow and a little tedious.
Yeah, we have that planned definitely. By speeding up the time. What we also have planned is a camp. You can build up a camp, and that will increase the rate at which armor is repaired and people are healed, and also camp during the night. And yeah, maybe we add some other features to the camp as well.
Oh, interesting. And all men in the band?
Yes, we have that planned for. It comes together with our injury system. So we want to have a more complex injury, have a chance of getting a permanent or maybe a not permanent injury, like a broken arm or something, or a missing arm. So with that, we want to increase the roster size, to at least double it, or maybe even more. And then at that point, it will probably be the into combat. So you have to, like in XCOM, in the new one, you have to rotate your people around, and to make sure that they are all.
Oh, interesting. A lot more to come.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good way of keeping the game alive, and it's proven statistically. Maybe, I don't know, this is controversial, a DLC or not, but the point is keeping it alive and active and always improving it. So, wow, about.
Yeah, we have a lot more, actually.
Yeah. Beautiful. That sounds very exciting, because I like the game a lot. And
Great.
to know, but beyond all that, Jan, that's all we have time for.
Okay.
On this episode of Daily Dev Talk. Hear what's happening at Battle Brothers.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's always great to being able to talk a little bit about you.
I'll talk to you another time. See you around, Jan.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Daily Dev Talk. Game out there, and to share your experiences and stories, then contact me at info@gameoverload.co.uk. That's